The hallway smelled like bleach and forgetting, that sharp, sterile scent of overworked nurses and underappreciated lives. Feet hurried, voices barked, machines beeped, and in the middle of it all, room 217 sat quiet, untouched, not empty, just avoided. The door hung open by a crack, not wide enough to be inviting, just wide enough to say, someone's in there, but not someone you want to know. Staff walked faster when they passed it. No eye contact, no conversation, just a look away, as if fear or guilt might escape from the gap in the door and attach itself to them. Nurse Sienna Clarke almost walked past too. Almost, but then she heard it. A sound that didn't belong to machines, not a monitor, not a pager, not a code alert, a sob, soft, broken, like someone was weeping into a pillow so no one else would hear. She froze. Was it her imagination? 12-hour shifts do things to your brain, especially when you've already done 5 in a row. But no. There. It was again. A human sound. A soul unraveling. Sienna stepped toward the door. She was 29, young by most counts. But life had aged her differently. She wore experience in her spine, poise in her posture, and exhaustion behind her eyes. Not the kind of exhaustion that comes from no sleep. The kind that comes from being underestimated, overworked, and spoken over in every room that mattered. Her badge read S. Clarke, RN, but people rarely looked at it. To them, she was just another pair of hands, another clipboard, another name they'd forget by lunch, but to the man crying behind that door, she was about to become the only person who didn't. She knocked, softly, out of courtesy, not expectation, and then she stepped inside. The room was dim, shades drawn, machines humming low, TV flickering with no volume, and there, nearly swallowed by white hospital sheets, lay a man, old, pale, bones like twigs, face like parchment that had been folded too many times. He didn't look up, didn't flinch, just cried, like grief was leaking out of him because there was no one left to catch it. Sienna glanced at the chart clipped to the bed. Patient, Henry, Lowell, age 81, DNR, multiple conditions, non-compliant. There were scribbled warnings in the margin, aggressive behavior. Refuses care. Possible racist. Whispers from the nurse's station came back to her. Watch out for that guy. Made 2 aides cry. Not worth your time. But she didn't see any of that. Not in this room. Not in this man. All she saw was someone no one wanted to see. She didn't speak. Not yet. She just pulled up a chair, sat beside his bed, and gently placed her hand near his, not grabbing, not forcing, just close enough that if he needed a hand to fall into, one was waiting. At first, he flinched, then blinked at her, tears still clinging to the corners of his eyes like they didn't want to fall all the way. His lips moved, but no words came, only a soft whimper, a tremble. Sienna leaned in slightly. "It's okay," she whispered. "You're not alone." That was it. That's all she said. No pep talk, no prayer, no "it'll be fine" when it wouldn't be. Just presence, just patience, just her. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is stay. Stay when the room is uncomfortable. Stay when someone is inconvenient. Stay when no one else wants to. Sienna didn't notice the phone. The tiny black rectangle tucked behind a water bottle on the tray, propped up just enough to capture the bed. And her. The red light blinked, recording, quietly, completely. She didn't know someone was watching. Not then, not later, not even the next day. She wasn't doing it to be seen. She was doing it because that's who she was, when no one was watching. Sienna stayed until the sobbing faded into sleep, then quietly slipped out, closing the door behind her as if she were trying not to wake something sacred. Later, back at the nurse's station, someone laughed when she told them where she'd been, wasting your time with that cranky old bastard. She didn't argue. She didn't defend it. She just went back to her charting and carried that moment in her chest like a candle lit in a dark cathedral. The next day, she returned. Room 217, same hallway. Same buzz of disinterest from others. Same sideways glances that said, "Why bother?" But she walked in anyway. This time, Henry was awake. He didn't say anything, didn't even turn his head, but Sienna saw the twitch of his hands, like they were waiting for something that never came. She sat down again. "Good morning, Mr. Lowell," she said softly. "I'm Sienna. I'll be your nurse today." Still silence, but not the angry kind, the guarded kind, the "I've been hurt before" kind. She checked his IV, adjusted his oxygen, recorded his vitals, all without small talk, no fake cheer, no over-bright encouragement, just care, plain and real. She didn't try to break his walls. She respected that they were there for a reason, but she didn't leave either. She stayed long enough that finally, his voice cracked through the quiet. "You're not like the others." She paused, then looked him in the eye. "I'm just here to help." He didn't smile, but he didn't look away either. And somewhere deep beneath the age and illness and grief, something shifted, something softened. And still, Sienna didn't know about the phone, the recording, the blinking red eye capturing every word, every touch, every breath she gave freely. She didn't know that Mr. Lowell was more than he seemed, that the man in room 217 wasn't just another forgotten name on a hospital roster, that before the machines, before the tubes, before the world moved on without him, he had built empires, funded dreams, signed checks that shaped entire cities, and he had vanished from it all after being betrayed by those closest to him. He had come to this hospital to disappear until Sienna sat down. The next few days blurred together. Room 217 became a quiet stop in Sienna Clarke's routine. No one told her to go there, no one praised her for it. But something pulled her back each time. The way Henry's eyes no longer dodged hers. The way he didn't flinch when she adjusted his oxygen. She thought it was trust beginning to bud. She didn't know it was a test. The hospital didn't change. Too many patients, too little staff, and not enough time to sit with the ones who needed more than a chart check and a checkbox. But Sienna made time. She always had. And Henry, he started talking. A little. A few words, here and there. Short, careful. Sentences like he was borrowing them from someone else's mouth. Once, as she fluffed his pillow, he said, "People only care when cameras are rolling." She thought it was just a bitter comment. Just another old man tired of being invisible. She smiled politely and kept going. "Another day," he said, "I've seen real hearts and fake ones. Hard to tell the difference until it's too late." This time she paused, looked at him, but he didn't explain, so she didn't ask. She just stayed. She told him about the broken vending machine, the flowers blooming near the East Wing, the patient in 302 who tried to flirt despite a broken hip. She made him laugh once. A soft chuckle, like someone testing a muscle they forgot they had. She had no idea the camera had caught it all. Still blinking, still watching, still recording every moment. To her, this was the job. The real job, not the paperwork, not the policy. Not the endless ticking of shift clocks and heart monitors, but presence, staying, showing up when no one else would. She didn't know that Henry Lowell wasn't just a dying man in a quiet room. She didn't know that once. His name was spoken in boardrooms and news headlines. She didn't know he was the founder of Lowell Systems, a tech empire that funded schools, hospitals, and initiatives across 3 continents before everything imploded, betrayed, backstabbed, left behind by the very people he once lifted up. And she didn't know that he had come to this hospital with one plan left. Find one person who would show kindness when they thought no one was looking, and Sienna. She was passing that test without even knowing she was taking it. The morning it all changed started like any other. Lukewarm coffee, traffic, Another shift. She parked her car in her usual spot, checked her tired reflection in the mirror, and sighed. Then her phone buzzed, once, twice, then non-stop. She ignored it at first, family group chats, spam calls, nothing urgent. But when she reached for her badge, the notifications kept coming. Messages, mentions, calls. Her heart skipped. She opened her phone. The lock screen flooded with names she hadn't seen in years. Sienna, is this you? Girl, you're on the news. Turn on your TV. Confused, she clicked a link. The browser loaded slow. Her breath caught faster than the page could open, and there it was, her face on every screen, a grainy video, no sound, no edits, just her, sitting beside Henry Lowell's bed, holding his hand, whispering softly, being present. The headline, "The Nurse Who Loved Quietly," caught on camera, showing us what compassion looks like. The room spun. She scrolled faster, article after article, clips, reposts, tears in comment sections from strangers she'd never meet. This gave me hope. This is what humanity looks like. I cried watching this. By the time she got to the hospital entrance, the shift had already changed, but nothing looked the same. Heads turned. People stared. Smiles bloomed on faces that had never noticed her before. You're famous. You're the nurse from the video. They're calling you the Angel of Room 217. It felt surreal, like someone had painted the hospital in gold, and she was the only one who didn't know why. Then came the call, the one that changed everything. She was paged to the administrator's office. When she arrived, there were two men waiting. One was the hospital director, a silver-haired man who had never said more than good morning to her. The other wore a tailored charcoal suit, eyes calm but sharp. "Ms. Clarke," the suited man said, rising. He extended his hand. "I'm Daniel Rowan. I represent the Lowell Trust." Sienna blinked. "The what?" The man nodded gently, as if understanding the weight of the moment. "Mr. Henry Lowell, the man you've been caring for, was not just a patient. He's the founder of Lowell Systems, a global foundation and former CEO. Sienna sat down slowly. Her hands shook. "He withdrew from public life years ago," Daniel continued, "after a fallout with his board. But privately he was watching, her mouth open, nothing came out. He left instructions," Daniel said, sliding a thick folder across the table. "Should he ever meet someone who showed real compassion, without knowing who he was, without cameras, without reward, that person would be given the chance to carry on his legacy." Sienna stared. "You," he said simply, "you passed that test." Tears pricked at her eyes. Mr. Lowell, the dying man she'd held comforted, sat beside, had seen her, truly seen her. Daniel opened the folder. Inside, legal documents, letters, a contract with her name on it. Mr. Lowell had chosen her to lead the Lowell Compassion Initiative, a global healthcare non-profit dedicated to underserved communities, free mobile clinics, mental health reform, and training programs for underrepresented young nurses, and she would be the face of it, fully funded, fully supported, led by the woman who proved that doing the right thing when no one's watching is the purest test of character. Sienna couldn't speak. Not at first. She thought about the vending machine stories, the quiet tears, the loneliness in his eyes. She remembered walking into that room when no one else did. She remembered sitting down, not because it was assigned, but because it was right. And now, somehow, that rightness had rippled out into something world-changing. The hospital director smiled at her, for the first time, like he truly meant it. "You've reminded us all why we got into this profession," he said. "And you've shown the world what real care looks like." But none of it felt like fame to Sienna. Not really, not deep down, because she didn't sit with Henry Lowell because of who he was. She sat with him because of who she was. That's the part the cameras couldn't fake. That's the part the world couldn't script. Not the foundation, not the followers. Not the headlines, but the moment she heard a sob through a half-closed door and chose to walk in. That was the beginning. Now the world knew her name, but even if it hadn't, she would have gone into that room anyway, because kindness, when real, is never wasted. It's not for applause, it's for people, and that made all the difference.